But first, I made an observation this week about Canadian politics that was, well, I think it was very easily defended with the facts, but nonetheless, it got quite a reaction. Maybe summed up best with people saying, "How dare you say such a thing?" Specifically, I said, arguably the key dynamic of Canadian politics is that the majority of Canadians want more government spending, but they are unwilling to pay for it themselves. Hence, the majority applaud each new spending announcement while ignoring the massive deficits and debt we're passing on to younger Canadians, including newborns and not yet born, who are going to be paying interest on the debt we're running up today for the rest of their lives. I was just thinking, my grandson's going to be paying interest on our debt for probably the next 8 decades when I'm long gone. A new report by the Fraser Institute also introduces that interest on provincial and federal debt, well, it's going to be $92.5 billion this year. You go out to the end of this decade, you're looking at interest payments of $100 billion plus. And by the way, forecasting is made a little more difficult because the Liberal government hasn't tabled a budget. While at the same time, Prime Minister Carney seems to be on a campaign-like spending spree from promises like bailing out the auto sector, money for the lumber industry, financial aid for manufacturing. And most times, he hasn't been specific about the amount, but what is clear is it's all going to be borrowed money. Much of the blowback to my comments seems to be for stating that while we want more, we're unwilling to pay for it. Well, if you don't agree, then why don't you personally ante up around $2,900 on your income tax, extra on your income tax, and that would pay for your share of the federal budget deficit for this year alone. You'd balance the budget, over $10,000 plus in the next 4 years. Of course, everybody has to do it in order to come up with enough money to balance the budget based on the Liberal spending plan, and there is not a chance. By the way, the income tax form includes an option to make voluntary gifts to Canada to reduce public debt, specifically through the Debt Servicing and Reduction Account. Revenue Canada doesn't release the figures for how many people actually do that. It's a non-deductible gift. I think it's safe to say that the number is somewhere between infinitesimal and nanoscopic. On the political front, though, this is really interesting because the Liberals understand that the majority of Canadians show no sign that running up huge deficit and debt is a major concern. I also want to note that is a huge change from past Liberal governments under Paul Martin and Jean Chrétien. They conveniently forget how hard they worked to rein in spending by dramatically reducing program spending, the size of the public sector, and privatize numerous government operations, which resulted in a balanced budget in 1997. Well, the Liberal Party of Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau has a completely different approach, completely different philosophy and practicality. Prime Minister Carney understands, though, politically, the majority of Canadians want more spending, more free stuff from government, and are not concerned with how they're going to be paid for. That in all the announcements, think about this: free dental care, free daycare, free pharmacare, billions for EVs, other social and green initiatives. Not once did Prime Minister Trudeau and now Prime Minister Carney or the official Liberal Party social media ever mentioned how they were going to be paid for. But it's tough to run against that for two big reasons. Number one, free beats paying every time. That's what people would choose. And two, it's the establishment. Those on the receiving end of tax dollars from, you could talk about public sector unions, mainstream media led by the CBC, to most in academia, to the myriad of special interest groups. Think about the dairy lobby, to the list of businesses and consultants who get tax dollars and special treatment. Well, of course, they're going to fight like hell to maintain the status quo. The dairy lobby is such a great example in defending supply management, as nobody dares to challenge that system, despite pushing 133,000 to 189,000 Canadians into poverty, costing the average family in the neighborhood of $500 per year, and forcing millions of liters of milk to be poured down the drain. No political party dares to challenge it. That's the establishment. And it begs the question, who do you think made out better under the current government? The poor or lower income individuals and families? The 9 million Canadians living in food poverty? Or those politically connected? Which one? The poor, lower income versus those who are politically connected and on the receiving end of big government money. I'll give you a hint. It's not even close. Those in power, though, wouldn't have it any other way.